Hello, America and Washington State. This is Ray from WeSpeak.com. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about some stuff that's absolutely blows my mind. How would you feel if you were a victim of a crime? You went through the whole process and the person who perpetrated the crime went to jail. And then you found out that they were released and you had no idea about it. I think that would upset most people. And that's what 1,100 people in Washington State are about to feel, is the governor is going to break the constitutionality and release 1,100 prisoners. But as we get into this subject, we have a special guest today, Senator Keith Wagoner from the 39th Legislative District. And he's going to be talking a little bit about what this does and how it affects the people of our areas. So let's welcome Keith Wagoner and see what he has to say. So Keith, releasing inmates before they've served their time, what do you have to say about that? How's that going to impact us? Can you fill us in, please?
Sure. So the 39th District has a Monroe Correctional Facility in it. So I have a big stake in what goes on in the correctional community. And I'll tell you, prisoner health and safety and correctional officer health and safety is one of my top priorities. In fact, I was the only senator who sponsored legislation that got signed by the governor that directly dealt with the health of prisoners in the last session. So I'm saying I have credibility in terms of my desire to care for people. The governor has proclaimed that to keep it safe for those people, he's going to let them out into our communities early. He's either going to commute their sentences or do a rapid reentry. And that's 1,100 people that are going to be released in our community early at the most volatile time in our state's history, or at least recent history. We don't have the capability to make sure they're safe in the community, and we don't have the reasonable expectation that they're not going to misbehave out there. So when this first started, I met with Department of Corrections staff the very beginning, second week of March, and said, what if this gets into prison? Do we have a plan? I met with Secretary Sinclair, and he assured me that there was a plan. They deal with it every year with the influenza. They have protocols in place. They have resident medical people. And I believed him then. I believe him now.
Can you tell us the amount of prisoners we have and how many have been susceptible to the COVID-19 virus, or has there been any?
So far, we've had 10 in the entire state out of approximately 16,000 incarcerated people, 10 cases, no fatalities. So the argument that the governor is using that we've got to release these people for their own safety doesn't make any sense.
Some people say that the Supreme Court is possibly making Inslee do this. Can you fill us in on this? Is that correct or incorrect?
There's an idea out there that the Supreme Court has forced the governor to this position. That is not the case. The Supreme Court ruled that the DOC had to take reasonable measures to keep our inmates safe and to stop the spread of corona. There were many, many other options there, but he chose to just let them out and let them into our communities. So he's not doing a service to the inmates. He's not doing a service to the correctional facility. He's certainly not doing a service to the citizens of the state of Washington.
Okay, so let's get something straight. First of all, you're telling me that the governor has taken his own initiative to let these people out just right now because it supposedly is protecting them. I personally think it has to do with more protecting the budget and hiding some of the mistakes made. But my immediate concern is, what's this going to do when they release this amount of people on the society? Is there jobs for these people right now with the COVID-19, everything shut down? And is law enforcement prepared to handle the influx of 1,100 new people coming in society that may not be ready?
No, we don't. So these people are going to get head of the line privileges when it comes to social services. That doesn't seem right. So we're pushing that on an already stressed system. But there's a constitutional element here too, Ray. And that is, although the governor can do a lot of things under his emergency powers, he can't violate the Constitution. And Article 1, Section 35 expressly allows the victims a right to appear and have something to say whenever they're being considered for release. And that's not happening And the answer we're hearing back from the governor is, well, there's just not time for that. The Constitution doesn't care if there's time for it. It's a constitutional requirement. And that passed by, I think, about 78% when it was first enacted. So I don't know who the other people were, but the majority of the state thinks that makes sense. And it does make sense. If you're a victim, you ought to have a right to know and have a right to protest when somebody's being released. That's not happening because of the, quote, emergency.
Keith, what do you see the crime rate potentially happening here? Do you think it's going to be okay, heavily impacted? What do you foresee?
Well, we all like to think that all these people are going to be rehabilitated, but that's just unrealistic. The crime rate will have to go up. There's no other way to think this is going to end up. And I have good positive hopes for people who've done their time. Well, these people actually will not have done their time. They have not done their time, and we're going to bring them back into this environment. It's just a terrible idea. But there's something else brewing that's getting confused with what just happened, and I think it's not getting enough press. That is there's another issue before the Supreme Court, Washington State Supreme Court, that is pressing to let all prisoners out, age 50 or over, regardless of their crime. That's being heard, I believe, this week. Same group is bringing it. That's your Gary Ridgways. That's your murderers, the Officer Jamie Bindle's murder. Those are bad people that this group is bringing the suit on behalf of.
Well, again, I believe that this has less to do with protecting the inmates than it does protecting his image. Because of the wide-reaching things and shutting down half the state or better and putting so many people out, I believe this is a way to cut the cost. If they're not in prison, it doesn't cost us anything to harbor him there, and it doesn't look as bad for him with the budget. Do you have any input on that?
Well, I guess I won't get to the nefarious thoughts that I can't confirm, but it is a fact that we're going to have a huge budget problem. I will say this. So I was giving the governor a C+ or a B- on his early steps. He got ahead of it. He did some things. Certainly I would have done things differently, but you always get sniped when you're at the top making decisions. He's gone past that now. So at this point, an ideological decision to do something that he clearly wanted to do. And this is an example of what happens when one person has all the power. No, I would just say to the people, educate yourselves, get the information that's out there. And if you go to the Department of Health's website on COVID-19, I like to say that the data is conveniently inconvenient, but you can find it there. There's some graphs that show the rates of infection, the daily numbers, the daily deaths. That's the data. The governor's office wants to talk about the models, not the data. So to people who are watching this, go look at the actual data. It's a little hard to find. You scroll down the page and you look at the epidemiological graphs. This is pretty much behind us. We have to be careful. We have to have a measured approach to opening up the economy, but we can start opening things up now. The governor's office prefers to look at the modeling because the modeling keeps the crisis going longer and gives him emergency powers longer.
Well, I agree. Anytime you have total power, you have total corruption. That's reigned true throughout history and is still alive and well today, obviously. Well, Keith, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. It's been great having you on the show. We look forward to having you on many more times in the time to come. Thank you again, Keith. I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Well, there you go. There's lots of information to dialogue there, lots of information to process. But can you imagine being one of the families who were a victim of a crime? The person was justifiably put in jail, and now, for I believe to save the budget reasons, you find out without your warning, without your constitutional right to know that they're being freed, they're going to be on the street again. This should have people up in arms. This is ridiculous. It's wrong. So thank you for joining us. This is Ray from WeSpeak.com, and we look forward to visiting with you again soon. Thank you. Have a great day, and be kind to the ones around you.